Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hang on one second. I just screwed all this. I screwed all this up. I just lost it. Here we go. Welcome to LTL Live. Appreciate you jumping on. I've never met you. I've seen you over on Melanie Little's channel. I know about your channel,
Yeah,
and everybody swears by you. So welcome on. Thanks for jumping up.
thank you. Yeah, I
So
saw
what?
you. I saw you were live on Twitter, so I figured I'd jump in and see. I like bouncing around and seeing
Yeah.
perspectives. Like when you're streaming, it's hard because I'm streaming during the day and then I'm working on the podcast at night and on the weekends. So I don't have time to watch everybody's, but I like
Yeah.
I like to bounce around and see different streamers, different ideas, and hear
Yeah.
what people have to say
That's
about
the yeah. That's the thing with me is like I work full time. I do this fuller time. So I do my
Yeah.
job and then like I come home and I try to gather as much information throughout the day with updates and tweets and going down to the courthouse and being there and talking to everybody and then kind of bringing that back, absorbing it all and then kind of coming on a live and spit it all out. So yeah, this is another full-time job for me, but I love doing it and I especially love everything that I've been able to bring to the audience about this case. I mean, I think it's wow. That's all I have to say is just wow. So let me get your
Yeah.
perspective. Enough of me talking. I want to hear your perspective as a woman, as a lady, someone of class. Everybody says that you're very classy, very thorough. What do you think about Trooper Proctor and what you've had to hear in this testimony today?
If I said what I thought about him, people would not call me classy anymore. So I'll I'll try to keep my thoughts
Mm,
PG, but he's like everything that's wrong with police officers, like and not police let me rephrase
sure.
that. He's everything wrong.
Hmm.
Everything's wrong with bad police officers, using his position as a way of kind of, trying to like, going through the phone and the whole thing about the nudes and all of
Hmm.
that. And I was a guest on Surviving the Survivor last night, and
Hmm.
I had said they had asked me about, what I thought about hearing everything he said. And I was telling them last night the thing that really I literally had tears in my eyes when I was
Mm,
streaming it. And I
yep.
see some of my members in here, so they can tell you, like, I literally was like
Hmm.
clenched jaw, tears in my eyes when he was talking about her medical condition
Hmm.
stuff. Like, I'm a cancer survivor. I went through cancer. I've done like
Oh.
30 surgeries, and I had,
Hmm.
like tubes and all of these things. Like
Hmm.
I've had like crazy, horrible medical situations. Like, and for the rest of my life, I'll have to deal with this stuff. And
Yeah,
so hearing him weaponize that and like, and make fun of her about it. And, it was so demeaning, and so that offended me way more than calling her a CUNT. That to me
sure.
was
Yeah.
so much more of a dehumanizing thing to say. And I was disgusted.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm alpha male. I'm guy all the way. Football. That I had tears in my eyes today as well with the
Yeah.
medical information. Because listen, we all have our own stuff. We all have our own medical stuff that we deal with. Some deal with psychological issues. Some deal with physical issues. Some people like yourself have been through cancer, and I'm glad that you have survived and you've beaten that. Other people have other ailments, and to put that on the world stage. I mean, this is not just in dead of mass 20 minutes from my house where I live. This is the world is watching now because this is at
Hmm.
trial. And how embarrassing for her to have to sit there and listen to the vile crap that was spoken about her, not only to his friends, but to his officers and superior. I
Yeah.
mean, just off the
That
chain,
to
off the
me
planet.
that to me made it such a bigger deal, because this is not just, like guys being, douchey guys in a text message. This is
Sure.
his superiors. This is what he's saying to his superiors too. And, and the things that he said that were, the like the objectifying her, and how she had no ass and things like that.
Mhm.
That that sucks to hear, that that's offensive. It's, but I could I could get past that. I think it sucks that it had to come out on a like worldwide stage. I can't
Right.
imagine how she felt listening to that, her family listening to that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how the O'Keefes felt having to listen to that, because they're up here, you know, watching all of this go down. And this is the dude who they're supposed to be having their full faith in to be able to solve the murder of, you know, or the death of their son. So I can you imagine having to sit there and listen to leaky balloon knots
Mm.
while you're having to mourn the loss of your child? So, you know, just for everybody involved, it just makes him look like such a crap person.
Yeah, and the scary thing about it, Brandy, is this. Not only, and you know this, not only has he talked about Karen Reed this way, every single person that he has ever been involved in any type of investigation, I almost 100% guarantee you he's talked about them the same exact way. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
vile.
It's a character thing, not a, because the thing is like we all have those group texts or those, you know, private texts that we don't want
Sure,
read out loud. You always
sure.
have that, you know, one or two or three people that you vent to and you say
Mhm.
whatever and whatever
Right.
goes, not your superiors. The fact that
Superiors.
he felt comfortable enough for that shows that is part of his character, not part of him venting to a family member to say, you know, whatever he needed to get off of his chest. And it's two very different things to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's crazy because I kind of like I went I got to sit in court the other day when Yuri was first on the stand, and to see the jurors' reactions, you know, during that, and seeing,
Mhm.
you know, how they were not engaged when Lally was speaking. You know, they kind of were all over the place, and then Alan Jackson takes the stage, and it's like boom, all eyes on Jackson, and they started playing like this tennis match back and forth. Jackson, witness, Jackson, witness. I can only imagine what their faces were like today. And I think Turtle Boy was reporting on it. I saw Jess Machado reporting, a lot of people reporting, and just saying, you know, some of the mouths of the women's were just wide open, like in awe, and just like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine. Did your mouth drop when you started to hear all the vile stuff? I mean, mine did. I mean, it was just
Yes.
like,
Yes.
I
And my
couldn't.
members always joke about how I can't fix my face. So I am like, you know how like when you pull up your text and there's like all the emojis like right there. That's how my faces are all day long. Like I cannot fix my face. If I'm thinking something, you are going to see it.
Right.
And so the entire time I'm, you know, I went through like the whole face, like the whole list of emojis on my face. I was like, you know, my jaw dropped, and then I'm angry, and then I'm rolling my eyes, and then, you know, like the one with like the steam coming out and all the, so yeah, I went through the whole thing. It was shocking to hear. And again, I know that some of it, like, and I'm not defending him in any way, but like
Mhm.
with some of it, like I said, I can understand, you know, saying some of those things, but he crossed the line so far. And because he did so to his superior, not just like, I can't believe this crazy heifer, you know, like this was so far beyond that. It was something totally different. It was
Yeah,
bad.
I mean, listen, we talk. We have private conversations. We say things in text messages that we shouldn't say, but I think you've gotten to that point. Not only did it translate to his friends, and the thing is talking to his superiors about that opened up the window to look back and say, well, if he's saying it to them, what else is he saying? And he's saying this 16, not even 16 hours into an investigation. And
Yeah.
again, he's already made his determination. He's already saying we're going to basically pin it on her, so there's no heat on the Alberts house. I mean, it was all set up, it was all lined up. Can I just pull these up real
Yeah.
quick? Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Double M double nine, thank you so much for the 35. Said if anyone gets a chance, please check out the documentary, the 7-5. It's all about police corruption in the NYPD in the late 80s. It's mind blowing. Google Michael Dowd. I will check that out. Thank you for pointing that out. Nikki, thank you for the 20. She said, I have a complete pelvic prolapse because I'm 4'10" and had 8 to 9 pound baby. Wow. I had got reconstruction down there. It's humiliating surgeries to follow that are beyond words. Nikki, very brave of you to bring that up. I'm sorry for everything you're going through. Thank you for the 20. I appreciate that. And I hope that you go get through your surgeries and well enough to live, live a much better life. So thank you. And it's terrible that, and we're hearing a lot of people talking about this stuff. I mean, I have my own
Mhm.
issues. I'm sure everybody in this audience has their own issues. But to have that out on the world stage like that, it's just completely embarrassing. Embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I can't imagine how she felt, and I can't imagine how the family felt, and, you know, and I I just I hate it for all of them. I am I've been very open, and I've said from the beginning, like, I fully acknowledge all of the issues in this case. I go through it in my podcast. I break every single possible detail down, every
Mhm.
conflicting everything. I am very, very tough on the investigators. I have been very careful about the like pointing out, situations and things that, don't add up to me. But I've been very careful about not giving too much of my own personal opinion on
Yeah.
theories of what I think happened, because I don't want to influence too much. I want to, hear everybody else's perspective. And, it has been so frustrating watching this and, hearing some of the stuff that's come out, because I went into this wanting so much to think like, okay, well, Occam's razor, this is just, the easiest thing happened. Like, she hit him and now they're trying to, defense is going to defense. But there's so many problems, and there's so many things that keep popping up, and there's so many coincidences, and there's just all of this stuff that's happening. And it's, you know, if the shoe were on the other foot and it was, this was the, instead of the defense saying that this happened, and, they're like, oh, this is, we can explain. If it was the defendant saying, oh, I can explain, it would be a totally different ball game, because everybody be like, okay, yeah, there's no such thing as coincidence. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see um, how long it takes to get a verdict, and if they can even get a verdict, or if it's going to be a hung jury. I'm really curious to see.
That's the scary thing about it. The hung jury scares me because then
Yeah.
you're gonna go all through this again. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just and that's
Yeah.
taxing because not only is it taxing emotionally, financially, it's gonna just keep adding up. It just keeps adding up and adding up.
Yeah.
Um, that's
And if it
interesting
got
that
if it has gotten this toxic with, some of the stuff happening, like just the vitriol that has come with this case, I'm getting battered right now on
oh,
on
yeah,
X,
I
like
get it
just
too.
like it in a way that I've never experienced before. And it is so emotionally and mentally exhausting for little old me, who is a nobody. So I can't even imagine how it must be to have to deal with this kind of stuff, like being part of, you know, the O'Keefe family or the Reed family, because they're having to be, right there in it, like every day. I can't imagine having, if it's this toxic now, having to go through a retrial, the level that it would escalate to in that situation. So I don't envy the jury, but
Mhm.
I guess we'll see what happens.
Donnie, $5 says, everyone take note. This is your town as well. Become involved. I've spoken about that. I've said those words a million times. Not only is this going on in Canton, Massachusetts, not only is this going on in Dedham, this is your town too. Know who the people you are. I've always said this, know who the people you're voting into your town and to run your towns and cities. Everybody gets very hung up on national elections, and I don't want to get too politicky here, but everybody gets hung up on national elections. The most important thing is the people that run your communities. That is
Yeah.
very important. Get involved. It's urged
Yeah.
me to get a lot more involved in my community. I mean, literally, Canton, Massachusetts is 20 minutes from my house. I'm like, oh my God, it just feels like it's in another world over there of like, what is going on? I can't believe it. And this is going to be the stuff that literally books are going to be written, movies are probably going to be made. Just pending the outcome of all this. But in my personal opinion, I don't know, Brandy, how much you watch me. I'm very, very pro Karen Reed. I mean, I'm not shy about it. I put it out there. We raise money for her
Yeah.
defense fund and kick it back. I just don't see it. But you are right about there's no algorithm, in my opinion, that could run and pinpoint all these coincidences. There's just no way. There's no way it
Yeah.
could happen.
Yeah.
It's just no way. And I love the
It's
fact
too
that
much.
yeah, Jackson said the other day to Yuri with the chief, oh, it's just ironic that you guys pass and meet up exactly at the same time. Like you weren't talking about that you weren't going to go back to the scene at the exact same time. It's just a coincidence. There's no way. There's no
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
There's no
And,
way.
there's been so many other things too, like just even, like I'm ready to hear from the experts. I want to hear it from them. I
Mhm.
did a video on the 227 search because I talked to some coders since we didn't have the digital, image
Right.
phone. I talked to coders about like, how does the coding work? Tell me what to expect. And that was really interesting because the 227 thing was the very first thing that I was like, okay, now wait a minute. So I'm ready to hear about that. I'm ready to hear from the, medical examiners, the reconstructionists, all of that, because right now there's nothing that has made sense to me and there's nothing that can put everything together. But I have a very intense timeline, and even some of the stuff that, you know, trying to, because I try to make myself argue both sides, and even the stuff like with the 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. Google
Mhm.
search, when I put that into the timeline, she said in her testimony that she stopped Googling it, or didn't get the answer or whatever because they were moving John. So then her
Yeah.
and Karen started to go with John. John had been in the ambulance for 10 minutes.
Yep.
So when I put all of this stuff together in the timeline, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't work either. So even the explanation for the morning search, the Google search didn't work because when you put it in the timeline, that math ain't mathin'. So I'm ready to hear, from all of that and see if it will help to answer any questions or not. Because if it doesn't, then that's if you can't end a case with questions because that's a not guilty verdict. So,
Right.
um, and right now there's no way I could vote guilty. So,
Mhm. Gerard says, "I wake up with brandy and then end the day with LTL." Thank you. We both appreciate that, and thank you for the 5. We'll add that to the running total that we have going on here. So I find it curious, and very interesting, and maybe that's just because Alan Jackson has just done such a great job on Cross so far. I mean, he's just saying we only need like 4 days at the end of this to wrap this up. Let me ask your opinion. How do you think they wrap this up? How do you think they approach this at the end?
I think the biggest thing is going to be bringing in their experts because the thing that they need the for the doubt for the jurors is going to be to just give them another theory. They don't have to prove that whoever it is in the third party culprit, they don't have to prove that Brian Albert or Brian Higgins or anybody else did anything. All they have
Right.
to prove, or not even prove, they don't even have to prove it, but all they have to do is offer a reasonable explanation for how something could have happened that does not involve her hitting John O'Keefe with the car. So if they have the medical examiner come in and say, this is, the animal wounds, and this is this, and this is whatever. And then they have their reconstructionist come in and say, you know, this is how this works and it doesn't work this way.
Right.
All it takes, the jury does not have to say, I 100% believe that that's what happened. They can still, if any of them, depending on what the reconstructionists say or whoever says from the Commonwealth, they can hear that and say, you know, this is probably more likely. All it takes for that not guilty is for them to say, that's possible.
Right.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
So,
And I think, I mean, just judging by looking at the jurors' faces the other day, I think a lot of them have that on their, like, that's possible, you know.
yeah,
But I think this was, I don't know. I said Jen McCabe for me was the most damaging testimony, but I think this right here is, this takes the cake right now. This is kind of the cherry on top. When I heard all of this today, I'm like, oh, this is not good. And
yeah,
nor should it be. I'm just saying, but I said this is going to be the one that sinks it. What
yeah.
for you
I
was
mean,
the real testimony? Was it today, or was it any of the previous people?
this has been a big part of it. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
lead investigator. And as much as they've tried to skirt around everything else and bring in everything else that they could through other people to try to limit Proctor being on the stand,
Yeah.
Proctor's the lead investigator. And they can
Yep.
call him the case manager or,
Right.
the janitor for all I care. He's the lead investigator and we all know it. So to have him up there and to look at what he has done and what he has said and what he has not done, and know that you have somebody who is not trustworthy. And a big thing today that I don't think a lot of people really like. I was surprised how many people didn't pick up on what a big deal this is. drinking and driving in his cruiser when he was with Chris or Kevin Albert, that's a huge deal because that right there shows that I don't care about the rules.
Yep.
I don't have to follow the rules. My job is, I'll do whatever I want to do. That to me showed that he has no concern, like that he feels like he's above the rules and he doesn't have to
Yeah.
follow
It's above
protocol.
the law. He's above the
Mhm.
law. That's what he's basically
Yeah.
saying, that the rules don't apply to him. And that's exactly what he did in this case. The rules just didn't apply. And he opened his trap and started flapping all this stuff because he had the meeting with Jen and Co. And that's the way that he was going to go, because he wasn't going to put this on Brian Albert or anybody inside that house because of the relationships. And again, if he probably did some real investigative work and went inside the house that night or canvassed the neighborhood like normal detectives would do and lead investigators, probably came up with a different opinion or some information, and not have to have Karen Reed in this position. But again, this
Yeah.
is the Ivory Tower clan that lives in Canton, that they're not going to let anybody knock this tower down. They're all going to get in on this. And they thought that Karen Reed was going to be the weakest one of them all. Well, guess what? You got another thing coming to you, because Karen
Yeah.
didn't lay down. And what they do, they had lesser charges on her at first. They blasted her with that. They probably said, just take a plea. You'll be out in 5 years, whatever. She didn't want to do that. So then they nailed her with second-degree murder. I haven't seen second-degree murder here. And I try to look at this at a very neutral or unobjective way. And I'm looking and I'm like, I haven't seen one shred of evidence that says that Karen Reed's done this. I just
I
haven't.
haven't either. I haven't either. And the whole Aruba thing to me is a nothing burger. I don't like, that was one of the things that I was really frustrated about, because there are all these people that, they didn't even talk to Lucky, the snowplow driver, until
Yeah.
21 months later. But they knew that, Karen Reed yelled at, Sullivan's little sister in Aruba, like that. It just felt so like, so tunnel vision and so just, I don't care about the actual investigation. I care about like building something against her. And that was what was so frustrating, because it felt like one of the most simple policing things you can do is interview the people who were there in the time. And it's just like, no big deal.
Yeah.
But let's get this gossip about what happened in Aruba. And I think that that's such a BS motive. It's there. Like, and especially because you can see on the video, we know that, or we've heard that they get into an argument later at some point because there's angry voicemails, but to see them on the video, you can tell that they're, smiling and having a good time and laughing. So if there's a drunk argument later, look, I've been there, but this is not one of those things where you see this building animosity in them all night. And, so she was like, I'm going to go, what did he say? Waffle him?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't. Ugh.
That
Like,
means to me, when I'm talking to my buddies and I said, I'm just saying, I know Tom and Jack got in a fight last night and Jack waffled him. That means he hit him. He pounded him. To me,
yeah,
that's you got hit. You got
yeah,
waffled.
yeah. Well, and
Going
didn't
back.
they say, whoever responded said, so are you saying that that it's a female that cop that hit him or something like that, or
Yeah.
however it was worded? And I was like, okay, so that it made it sound like they thought the same thing,
Yeah.
because
He
to
got
me
hit.
that's what, yeah, to me that's what
Mhm.
it like. But
And then, real quick, and you go back to the conversation about, fighting. Look at, we've all fought with our significant other. We've all
mhm,
been there. We've all said things that, you don't mean, you don't mean what that meaning in the moment. That's a way to get a reaction out of your spouse. You say something like that to gain a
mhm,
reaction because you're pissed. To me, the arguments, that doesn't mean anything to me. Listen, do you think that an argument in Aruba is already Karen Reed just going to hold that on her shoulder and say, yeah, this is the night I'm going to get him. Get out of the, the truck, John. Just stay there for a second. I'm going to back up. Doesn't even make sense. And just even
yeah,
going to the broken tail light too. I mean, I worked, when I was in high school, I went to a trade school and I worked in an auto body repair shop for 3 years. Not my sophomore all the way up to senior year. And I worked on many cars and touched 1,000 taillights, taking those out, repairing dents and all that. There is no flipping way that any part of John's body what the Commonwealth is trying to say, smash that tail like it was. That to me, that was a hammer that hit
Yeah.
that tail light to make it explode.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. That's something that I've said before too, because I did paint and body work on cars. I grew up in a body shop. My
Oh,
my dad had
look
one.
at that.
My uncles all had one, and I built my own muscle car when I was
Cool.
in college. So like I am in no way a taillight expert, but I've been around enough, and I've been around enough collision, work to know that they don't break easily, and
No.
it takes, like, and they're made like that. They're made specifically not to, to be able to take a little bit of an impact without shattering. So to me, I was like, it's so hard for me to understand how it would shatter that way
Mhm.
with, and looking at his injuries, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see it. I don't get it. So, but
Yeah, it's interesting, and if I can find it really quick, I just want to show you something really, really quick. Let's see, because I stood next to. Oh, here we go. I'm already gonna hear not this picture again. My girlfriend's in the chat, so she's gonna be like, not this picture again. But here, okay. So we were out to dinner one night, and I went, holy crap, that's the same model and make of Karen's SUV. And I
yeah,
stood next to it. Now I'm 6 foot. Everybody's gonna go, no, you're not. And no, you're not. I'm 6 foot. And John O'Keefe, I think, is 6'2". So he's a little bit taller than me. Tell me where on my body would damage that tail light. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. I would have bruising or a broken rib or a broken arm or what it may be, or if
yeah,
they're just trying to say it's his head. I said, and I know I'm going to sound vile here. If that hit his head at that speed, his head would be crushed. I mean, just judging on the damage to that tail light, his
yeah.
head literally would be crushed. So
Yeah,
I just
it
don't
just
see it.
doesn't make sense to me. And when I first started looking into this, I was like, okay, well, maybe he threw like if they were fighting and he like threw the glass, like the cocktail glass, and it
Mhm.
hit the light, and that's how it broke. I was thinking like maybe that could be, how. So I'm trying to find like all these different scenarios on what could possibly explain it, because to me it made no sense. I can't make that make sense in my head, and I don't think that anybody else will be able to either, unless they have somebody who can come in and suddenly, show this is what happened, this is how it,
You know
how
how
it
they do
worked.
it, Brandy? You know how they do it? The Commonwealth has the video, and on opening statement, Karen Reed hit and killed John O'Keefe. Play the video, trial's over. But ironically, Brandy, you know this, no one's ring camera worked that night. There's no
Yeah,
footage. It all got erased. It's all lost. You got to tell
yeah,
me that probably multiple people on that street have ring cameras and not one of them worked that night. How
yeah,
it look at how the coincidence of that. I mean, it just
yeah.
wouldn't happen.
Yeah, there's so many things that wouldn't normally happen. Like, it's if it were one or two things, it's kind of like when you build something from IKEA, there's always going to be one or two screws loose that, you just throw in the trash can and you assume everything's going to be fine. That's fine.
Excuse me.
But like, this is not just, this is not that. This is a whole bunch of things that have not fit into this puzzle, or IKEA furniture, what if you want to keep with the analogy, like these are
Yeah.
a whole lot of things that don't fit into it. And I don't know how they're going to be able to get past the hurdle of reasonable doubt if they are not able to clean some of that up. And I I I'm not there. I don't know that it will be possible for me to get there. I have said all along I am open to hear all information. I just personally have not been able to, you know, I'm not
Mm.
there. So.
Let me ask you a question because obviously the first time we're talking. When you went into this case, did you go into it with open mind or did you have a perspective right out of the gate? Do you have an
No, I
opinion?
went
I'm sorry, opinion right out of the gate.
I went into it with an open mind. I went into it, when I first I my first thing I did was pull the 2 loudest in the room. So I listened to, I think I watched, like, one video of Turtle Boy, and then
Mhm.
I watched one video because obviously he's the loudest in the room, on that side, and then I watched one video of Wendy Murphy.
Oh God. You went through that
She was
torture?
she was allowed us in the room, and then I watched the video of them, like, not too long after that, then they
Mm.
were, like, arguing against each other and stuff, and, so I listened, and I was like, "Okay, they are both so sure."
Mhm.
So oh, Wild Child saying, "Do you want a biscuit?" Wait till you see Wild Child. I'll show y'all tomorrow. Somebody sent me a compilation of all of my Bevisms at the end of the day, and it's
Oh,
hilarious. I'll
that's
show
funny.
y'all tomorrow. But I watched the two loudest in the room thinking like, okay, if they're both so sure, how are they both so sure? So then I
Right.
started kind of digging into it. And the Google search was the first thing that really piqued my interest and thought, okay, well, this could be something.
Mhm.
And then I got into all of the documents, and there were so many conflicting statements in the documents. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is a problem. And I started putting everything out, and I made a big timeline of just the statements. And nobody's stuff lined up, and that's when I was like, okay, wait, something's off here. And so I've been very open the whole time, but I have been very hard on the investigation and the things that were done wrong, the documents that, the reports that there's no signed statements. Who doesn't have signed statement? If you're not going to record it, then there needs to be a signed statement saying, yes, this is what I am saying happened, and this is what time, and all of that. There were just too many issues for me to think something in the milk ain't clean. I don't know what it is. So I started kind of digging in, and I there are things that the defense has said that I don't necessarily agree with, that and like I said, I'm open. But there are things that the defense has said that to me, I don't think makes sense. There are a lot of things the Commonwealth has said to me that don't make sense. So, trying to kind of put it together, but I have not been able, sorry, my dog's going nuts. I have not been able to get past, not even just get past reasonable doubt, but I've not even been able to get to the point where I'm like, I can see jurors getting past reasonable doubt, because but it's hard too, because I've been so invested in it for so long that, it's hard
Yeah.
for me to try to picture what the jury is, what they know, and what, based on what they're seeing. So
That's the toughest thing. That's the $1,000,000 question. Like, what way are they leaning right now?
yeah,
I know the way that I want them to lean because I stick with the facts and what I've found out about this case. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing, and
yeah,
this is going to change a lot of things in the. I hope it changes a lot of things in the system. I hope it
me
changes
too.
a lot of things in the fact that we need to vet police officers a lot more before we just hand them a badge. I think there needs to be a lot more psychological testing on these police officers. Obviously, the physical demands of the work, but really look into these people. I mean, when you go to the CIA, they don't just say, come on into the CIA. You go through like a year vetting process. They want multiple interviews with many, many members of your family, your friends, and they go back to like people that might have taught you in third grade. They just don't take you on the CIA, and that's
Right.
another whole nother show. I know people are gonna go, the CIA are corrupt, they're corrupt. I'm just making an example. I'm just saying, but
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a lot of police reform. And the thing is like I'm super pro police. If something goes on at my house, I'm calling 911. But I am just
Yeah.
like, I'm telling you, it's made me think a lot more about who's handed a badge and a gun now. It just makes you think a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. I agree. And I do hope, and that's one of the reasons that I've been so hard on the investigators in my podcast, because I have pointed out every single thing that I can find that I feel like there needs to be light on, that should have been done differently, that should have been, and I've been very hard on them, because I want it to be so humiliating for them that this is on a world stage, that they never
Mhm,
do it again. The victims deserve so much better. They deserve so much better, because if
mhm.
things would have been done how they should have been done, and they would have done their job properly, then this could have avoided so much pain and so much money, so much time, so much everything, all the things. It could have
Yeah.
avoided all the things. So,
Yeah, and the sad thing about it is the evidence that they could have used to prove what happened inside 34 Fairview is destroyed, in my opinion, completely destroyed. They mishandled
yeah,
everything. I mean, if the jury doesn't even look like that, and so just based off the handling of evidence, the way that it was handled, tagged wrong, What was it? The IT guy. I love this one too. Lally hands him the CD and he goes, "This is the CD they gave to the lead detective." He goes, "That's not the CD I gave him." I mean,
Yeah,
how like bad is that? That's just it's
yeah.
really bad for the pro. I
It's
mean, there's so many things.
There's so many. And that's one
Yeah,
of the things too, is like, it's been hard doing the podcast because I'm like, trying to fit, and I've had to do a couple bonus episodes, which is what I'm like, I was taking a break now because I'm working on it, trying to get that new episode out for
gotcha.
tomorrow morning. But trying to narrow things down because I'm like, well, wait, there's more. So I did like my last week's episode was like almost, I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. And normally I keep them just under an hour, but I'm like, I can't, I
Mm.
got to get, as much as I can in here. And, but yeah, it's been
Are you a live streamer or you just do videos? I'm sorry, I haven't
um
watched your channel that much. Do you do live streams or?
yeah, I
Yeah,
do live streams, and then I do live streams, and then so like I'm streaming the trial during the day, and then I do the podcast, which I have the podcast on my YouTube channel too, but it's on like
yeah.
Spotify and Apple
Okay, good for
um
you. That's great.
and all that. So, which has been great because I've had a lot of people who have it's the podcast has done really well. It's been in the top like 20 to 50 in the United States in true crime
Wow,
for the
good for
last couple
you.
months. So
All
there's a lot
right.
of people that are hearing about it, that
Right.
because there's a huge true crime community out there that doesn't watch YouTube and doesn't, so all
Yeah.
they're getting is the mainstream media stuff. And as well as I do, that ain't that
No, they're
you're
not.
only getting,
Listen, yeah, you
you can
should
only
see the
get
way
what you
they're
can get.
reporting it around here. It's incredible. The biasness here that they have in this case. Where can people find, obviously on YouTube, where can we find you on X? What is your
Yeah.
handle on X?
Um, I in
You
the
don't know it, dude.
boxing
I don't
ring
know
where they're
mine
like
either.
attacking me. It's I don't even, yeah, I don't know mine. Let's see. Profile.
Sorry to
Oh, at Brandy in Church.
and they can find
Brandi
you.
in Church. And then yeah, my YouTube is youtube.com slash
Yeah,
at
I
Brandy
dropped your link a little
Churchwell.
while ago, so yep.
Okay, yeah. And then the podcast it's 13th Juror Podcast. It's the second season. That it's like Conspiracy in Canton is what the second season's called, but you
Good
can
for
look
you.
it up on 13th Juror Podcast is what it is. So, but
That's cool.
I do the I put everything together and kind of go through all of the details and recaps, and then when you're watching it, there's a lot of stuff that you miss when you're like watching it live. So I go back
Yeah,
and I download the transcripts and then go back through everything and try to put everything together. So
that's great. Will you come back and
so
hang out again sometime?
yes, of course I
All
will.
right,
Absolutely.
I'd love to have you back on. I think, that's good. I'd love to get you up here with, Jess Machado as well too, and I think that would be a really great show. She's in courtroom reporter here, local to our area. She goes in the court. I don't know if you follow her on X, but she's doing a show with me tomorrow night. She's doing like weekly check-ins to kind of give us some
Yeah.
updates on how the jury's reaction, the courtroom vibe, and stuff like that. So it's been really good. But I'd love to have you come back on again.
Yeah, I'm down.
Awesome.
All right. Thank
Thanks for
you. I will
jumping
see
up.
you.
Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too. I'm
And
gonna lurk
continue,
for a little bit while I'm working.
yeah, and continued success on your channel. And we'll get you back soon.
Thank you so much. Bye,
All
y'all.
right, take care. Bye bye.